Welcome to this week's episode of the CBC Home Service Success Network. This is sponsored by CBC Success Group and some of the members of the team. Hey, we're the people on this broadcast. Our mission is to give you great ideas, some gold nuggets, things that you can put to work in your own business to move to the dreams that you have in the day you started that business. So today, just like every week, we've come up with a topic that we're going to go into and some discussion. But first, I'm going to ask you, do you remember when you were in school and you got a report card or your parents got a report card? And what that report card did, it told you the subjects that you did really great in, and then it had the subjects you weren't so good in. And then if you were like me, you had some F's and some D's on there and getting A's. For some reason, Cheryl, I think your report card probably had a lot of A's on it. Am I right?
Most of them were all
Most of them had A's. Brandy, what did your report card look like when you were in grade school?
Oh, in grade school? In grade school, it was probably okay. In middle school and high school, it was pretty bad. And then I had a 4.0 in college, but high school, I was just interested in boys.
So you were just interested in boys and chasing boys. See, Brandy, you're opening yourself up to our listeners that probably had never imagined that
No.
Brandy was into boys like this and took over a life like that.
I don't
So
think I opened a book in high school.
Yeah. So Josh, what about you? What was your report card like that your parents got?
Oh, it was the opposite of Brandy's because I was high GPA in high school, and then I was interested in partying in college.
Okay, so you did.
I
So
didn't
your
open any
parents,
textbooks in college.
yeah, but you remember these days, and I don't know if they still do report cards. Brandy, you've got kids. You know, Haley's still in school. Does she get report cards like we did before, or have they changed this now?
It's all electronic. And every year, it seems like some kid in the high school figures out how to hack in the system and change theirs.
Really? So anyway, so the report cards are getting hacked by today's world. Okay.
Yeah, but it's
So
all
that's amazing.
electronic.
I
But
love it.
anyway, what we're going to talk about today, we're not going to call it report cards. We're actually going to talk about scorecards and where you need to start doing scorecards for your team members. Scorecards. Because here's the whole thing. I'll bet you that you got people on your team that excel in certain areas. And I bet you got people that really suck in some areas. A couple weeks ago, I was out and observed a crew in operation at a client location. And the first day I was there, they were doing gas service. And Josh, you would have been amazed. These guys were doing everything and probably as good of a gas service that I could ever see. They
Love to hear it.
documented, they cleaned it up, they checked all the settings, the gas pressures, the electronics, the voltage. They ran all these checks. And that was day one. But on day two, we went and they did some wood burning installation maintenance. And it was completely opposite. And what I observed was their communication skills and telling the customer what the problems were wasn't good. And I was actually adding up in my head the dollars that that company was losing due to poor communication. So this is our message today, and this is what we're going to talk about is developing up scorecards for your people. And this is what I want to really enforce. So many people look at it from the aspect of how good they are in sales. In fact, and a lot of times I think that we are so eat up with sales that we don't look at the other facets that make the wheel go round. Because in order to be that phenomenal employee, that phenomenal member of the team, you got to have well-rounded skills. I mean, if I look at Brandy, Brandy is well-rounded in, my God, she just returned to nursing, okay? And she's got so many of these skills. When I look at Cheryl, the skills that she has, I mean, we don't need an IT person here. We got one. We got a person that has all of these skills in different areas. And I
I
look
don't know
at
how
Josh.
Cheryl feels about that.
Huh? Well, and I look at Josh, and Josh has high skills in some areas. Some areas, sometimes Josh has got to look up how do I improve and get better in these areas. And that's what we all have to do. So, Brandy, I'm going to start off with you today, and I want you to kind of communicate with the folks. What do you see should be get looked at on an office person's scorecard? If you were putting together a scorecard system for a client for their office employees, what would be the talents you would want them to be examining?
Well, I think that they need to be looking at their overall calls. So, what percentage of calls are they booking for themselves individually, and what percentage are they booking out of the total of calls being taken by that entire office? What is their call length? And then also taking a look at how that call is going. Are they following the scripting? Do the notes in their CRM match what was said on the call? Are they saying may instead of can? Are they asking to put the customer on hold instead of telling them to put them on hold? The nice thing about most CRMs nowadays is they can track a lot of this for you. And if they don't, a lot of the AI in the telephone systems can track a lot of this for you. So all you have to do is really run the report. You don't have to do a lot of this manually anymore.
Yeah. And you mentioned about AI. We interviewed a company a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, I forget how long, called Rilla Voice, that had developed up a system using artificial intelligence that gauged the effectiveness of the communication of the technician. And we have one client that engaged Rilla Voice, and the next week he called me and he said, Jerry, I figured out something. And what's that? My guys really suck. Once he invented and put to use, didn't invent it, but put to use the tool to utilize artificial intelligence. Just like you said, in the world of the office today, with the software that's there, you can monitor so easily what their closure rate is. And you've got artificial intelligence that come into play into that. So, Josh, let me go to you. You've got a retail background. If you were putting together a scorecard for a retail person on the floor, what would be the areas that you would want to look at?
And I need my glasses.
You need your glasses.
I did
Okay,
make
that's the first one. They need their glasses, right?
He's an old man.
I mean, really.
I know. Well, if you saw how much gray hair falls on the floor at the barbershop, I can't argue with that.
Don't even go there with me, okay?
There is no hair there to cut off, Jerry.
There is hair, okay? I was told I got to get a haircut before I go to Puerto Rico next week.
Okay. I could save you a few dollars, but okay. So one of the things is going to be tracking. You want to track who comes into the store, how many people come into the store, who do you give estimates to, and what is your close rate on those? Because with us, we're a specialty retailer, so they're usually coming in for a specific reason. So there's things to do like far as training. Can they, in their presentation, do they give good, better, best scenarios? Can they tell you differentiating things about the product? Can they tell you why you want to buy a steel stove or a cast iron stove? Are they meeting their sales goals? Does their workstation look clean? That's always a big one on the sales floor. And we say this about the service trucks too, because if your dashboard's piled high full of shit,
Bleep.
Yep. Bleep. Excuse me. My apologies, folks. I got to control him sometimes. Keep going, Josh, but keep it clean. This is a family channel.
All right, I understand. Are your other responsibilities? What do they call it? Busy work in the restaurant industry. Have you folded your silverware? Have you stocked your brochures? Are your store signage up to date? Things like that are very important that need to be done on a regular.
I have a question for Josh. Do you need to track the time a customer spends in the store? I don't know, because I've never had retail.
No, because everyone is so different when they're in their store. One observation I love to make is before we remodeled, we used to have all our stoves on pods, and so you would walk around the pod. and I would kind of study how they would interact with it and the time it took them to make a decision when it was on a pod. But I can tell you the time now that we have, this long wall and they can see everything side by side and they can step back and go, that one, their decision-making process gets faster.
Yeah. And Josh, one of the things we found out at your retail location was that we actually changed the entryway door where you came in through a door that you had to walk through the showroom instead of taking the shortcut to the counter and those type of things. So, but how does the manager track this?
Well, you would have, so the first thing you're going to want is it's an intake sheet. You're going to track basically a little bit of your demographics, single, couple or single person looking. You would give them an estimate. Are they giving them the folders, the about us folders, things like that? Are we really qualifying them? Are we using the tools that we have? We have our internal website, the wiki page. So we have tools to help them make selections, and we have in decision-making hierarchies there.
Got you covered. So anyway, so that's from the retail aspect. Now, one of the most important tracking and scorecards, I think, is hiring the right people. And it goes down again. So this is something Cheryl deals with. And it's just this week, we had an employee failure, somebody that was hired, been there for a few weeks, and it wasn't working out. And the owner had to make a difficult decision, which means this person's not going to fit. So, Cheryl, when you're interviewing a prospect for a client, what's Cheryl's scorecard of what do they have to do in order to rate and get a recommendation from you for that client to look at this person? What's your scorecard in the hiring?
Number one is their confidence. Are they confident in what they're doing? Experience, and I don't mean experience in that specific job, but their resume experience. Have they, like if we're looking for a technician, if I've had nobody that's ever worked outside and they have a northern job, it doesn't work. So I'm looking for, have they been in a certain field, in certain fields that will fit? The first one I look for is, did they show up for the interview on time? Preferably early, because I always go on early. And if they show up early, they automatically got 1 point right off the top. I watch to see if they're searching for answers. Are they looking up in the sky, trying to figure out the answer to their question? Are they making it up as they go? A lot of times you can tell. The ready answers, again, so they don't have to search. You have to think some for some of the questions I do, but the main ones, I need quick answers. Mainly their communication, their work ethics. And I've got one that's, are you happy, sad, or are you depressed? And also now we're having to look for if this person's stressed while I have them on here, then they're going to be more stressed when they hit the job position.
Yeah. So, Brandy, let me switch over to you. We've done joint interviews where myself, you, Cheryl, and the client are all on the interview. This is usually for an operations manager or someone upper level. And you have a scorecard system. And actually, by being on this long enough, Cheryl and I can tell from the amount of time that you're devoting to this interview. If you say in 1 minute, hey, I'm done, we know, hey, this one ain't working for her. We can tell this automatically. But somebody new shows up. I know that timeliness is a big one with you. If they're not on time, they basically have disqualified themselves. But what else are you looking for in the scorecard?
Well, when we're talking about interviewing somebody in a leadership position, then I'm asking more specific questions about their leadership style. Have they ever led a team before? I love to give actual scenarios, like an employee comes to you and says that their cat died this morning and they dusted a house, whatever, real scenarios, and say, how would you coach that employee? How would you handle that employee? I also want to make sure that they know what KPIs mean. So I'll ask them, what do KPIs mean to you? Sometimes they know it, sometimes they don't. But it's a whole different level of questions than I'm asking somebody that's just going to be in a beginner position. But
Right.
you're
And
right, timeliness. If they show up late, I think I've said before on this podcast, I recently made somebody cry because they showed up late to an interview, and I just met them at the door and said I couldn't interview them. But if you're late on your first impression, what's it going to be like when we hire you?
yeah, that's it. So, okay, so these are the things. So I'm going to kind of at the technician side because this is a big thing, hiring technicians. And like I said earlier, I honestly, truly believe that the home service industry is looking at sales as the deciding factor if this is a great person or not. And I think we have a lot of people that are not well rounded with the actual people skills, the skills that they need to be that well rounded technician. I mean, these are the things that I tell people to build their scorecard up because actually I've had about 5 conversations this week with clients, 3 this morning about building scorecards up for their people because it's just been a fantastic thing to start developing this. But is sales part of it? You better believe it because without sales, nothing's going to happen. But I'm also going to look at, do they arrive at work on time every day, every single day? Are they on time or are they a person that's classically late? Brandy, you're big on this late thing. And what's your feeling about the personality of a person that can't show up to work on time?
They don't care. They're not invested. They don't respect their coworkers and respect the business enough if they are fine with just showing up late. I mean, you mentioned I went back to nursing. I'm usually at work like 45 minutes to an hour before my shift starts. That's because I want to make sure if I get a flat tire on the way, if there's traffic, I still want to be on time. And I have my employees get here pretty darn early before their start shift. They start at 7 and a lot of them are here by 6:15, 6:20 in the morning, and that's because they don't wanna be late. It shows respect for your colleagues and your coworkers.
Correct. And I've learned, in what I do, often going to work means I'm going to Charlotte Douglas Airport to get onto a plane. And this is what we all know, the plane ain't going to wait for you. Okay. And if I miss that plane, so I've actually had flat tires going to the airport before that we had to scramble. I can remember Cheryl coming getting me, taking me to the airport while her daughter got my car, brought it back to the tire store in Concord after we had a tire changed on the side of the road. So, but these are the type things. So, arrival at work on time. Are they arriving at the job sites on time? This is vastly important. If you don't arrive on time, then your customer is going to lose confidence in you. You haven't fulfilled your customer promise. Is the truck set up, organized, neat, and clean? And this is a big one. Guys, I see trucks that people have 40, 50, $70,000 invested that I would be ashamed to say were in my fleet. They're that bad. They're terrible. Do they complete their jobs in a timely manner? Are they accumulating reviews? Are they getting reviews? And are they making waste? Are they having wasted trips? Are they making inaccurate estimates? Because often somebody does a proposal and they leave out key factors, and instead of being a profitable job, it becomes a loss for the company. But I think, and this is what you've got to do, you got to put this all together for what do you consider to be the right thing. This is one of the things that I hate to see. Randy, every day we see on Facebook, hey, I'm trying to start this. Would you send me a copy of yours? Okay. Josh, would you send me a copy of that wiki page? No, you got to do this work. It's part of your role as that manager. It's just like when Josh does systems. It's not the systems that work where Josh does business. It's a system that works where that client does business and works with their business. It's vastly important. So, Josh, what else would you add about scorecards and what we're talking about today and the necessity to build this for your own company?
Well, one thing is to build them without emotion, because that's always a big thing for me. Is you can take your personal feelings out. Because I have someone, I know someone where they can't stand that their salesperson is messy. I'm like, brother, you have to let that go. Like, you know, a lot of that's their personality. It's like me and my wife talk about this, the difference in the kids. My daughter takes after me. She can be a bit of a slob. My son can't have a drop of ketchup on his shirt and he flips out. That's the difference in the two parents. So having these scorecards and letting them know, and where they're, where they know their metrics are, helps in a lot of ways when it comes to managing the employee.
Yeah, it does. But the same thing, Josh, when there's weaknesses, as the manager, we got to work with these weaknesses. We got to
Yep.
bring the weaknesses out. Very seldom are we going to find a person that's well rounded in all facets of their job. And that's where the tracking and the measurement comes in. And if they're not working out in some areas, then as that manager, it's our responsibility as leaders to work with them to help make them better. They need our help. They're not going to come out. Brandy, does a nursing student come out of nursing school and they got it all figured out and all whipped, or does it take years of experience to be able to, let me give you an example, to console a family member? Okay? I mean, to me, in the medical industry, one of the hardest things has got to be is when you're facing a situation that a family member is going to be leaving us and you're dealing with the relatives because you're that contact person. I still remember when my mother was in intensive care and she was on her last days. And I've never seen how someone was able to maintain their composure as that guy did that was her nurse in that intensive care. And that has to take years to learn that. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're right. And oftentimes we maintain composure in front of the family, but we may go lose it, back in private just because it can be sad and you do take it home with you. I work with patients who are suicidal. That's very hard to deal with. And going back to what you were talking about earlier, I was just thinking about like CSR metrics. I can't expect a CSR if I tell them that I need their phone call to be under 4 minutes, then they know what goal they have to hit. But if they have an 8-minute phone call and I've never told them that I expect it to be under 4 minutes, then that's on me. That's not their fault. They
Correct.
don't know what the scorecard is supposed to be.
You haven't set the clear cut expectations. And Josh, that goes back into the systems. That's part of the systems that you have to write, because if you don't have the systems, you're not going to have a plan for those people to follow. And
No.
what's going to happen without the systems is it's going to be chaos. So maybe we are blaming our team members, but it's really our fault. And that's what we got to look at the scorecard. Did we cause this or did they cause this? What we got to be able to drill down on this. But the only way we can do this is with the scorecard. So am I right? Am I on track with the systems of what I'm saying here, Josh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
No,
the
because your SOP will match your scorecard. They should match up 1-to-1
yes, they should.
along
If
with your job descriptions.
right, as long as you're giving them the system to follow, and we are holding them accountable and we're setting our expectations. My God, this is what McDonald's does. McDonald's is the most successful small business in the world, and it's operated by high school kids. Now, yeah, is McDonald's not as good as it was in service at one time? Yeah. Now you got all these lanes. Pull over here. We'll bring it out to you. Versus when they started out, the hamburgers to the customer in 30 seconds or less. So it's all part of putting it together. Okay.
But
Josh, you had your hand up. Do you have something
yeah,
else?
have you heard like what it took for them to go international too? Like
No.
they had to get cows, they had to get the farmers to breed the right cows to have meat, over there too. So
Yeah.
they had to develop their supply chain. So when they went to Russia for the first time, it wasn't just, hey, we're going to open up this store. they went in through and they had to develop the supply chain of, hey, this is the type of cow for the type of beef that we need. These are the potatoes that we want. This, we don't want golden or whatever. We want russets and blah, 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 blah. So there was a lot of infrastructure they had to build in order to open up, the very first location.
That makes
Yeah.
sense because a Holstein cow tastes different than in Black Angus.
Did you
No, I'm
say a
hungry.
Holstein or a Holstein?
Holstein.
Okay,
Holstein.
I thought you said a Holstein cow, and I'm thinking, gosh, I don't think we're steaming no beef in the barbecue pits.
My
out here.
kinfolk are farmers. I know my cows. I
I was
know my
gonna say,
heifers.
Brandy was probably more excited about the tractor than my wife.
Yeah. So I have a feeling that your wife was probably not super excited about the tractor.
No, I sent her the, she thinks my tractor is sexy, and she said maybe your boyfriend does, but
I hear you, brother. So, Cheryl, anything else you would add about scorecards today?
The thing is, when you're starting the interviews like I do, you don't have as much to go through as much or much to deal with, like when Brandy's had them there for a while, Josh has had them for a while. So when you're doing that first thing with a raw employee coming in or a raw interview, is you have to watch their expressions. You have to deal with their personalities. You have to deal with their body language. And you can eventually get to the point where you can tell if they're telling you the truth or just skimming it over. So, but that's the first step, and you've got to be very, very comfortable at what you're doing. And like you say, Josh, the good thing is I have no skin in the game. So I can look at you from a little different than if I'm trying to hire you for my place and I need a body really, really bad.
Yeah.
But that's the main thing. Don't hire just because you need someone breathing.
Yeah. Josh, let me ask you a question. You sent me a private message. You love to watch Brandy interview someone.
oh god, yeah,
Why?
because I'm so painfully bad at it.
You suck at it, okay? We all know Josh is not the interviewer for sure.
No.
Okay, that's a weakness on Josh's parts.
It's a huge weakness, but no, watching Brandy's like, she's got like an NFL playbook. She's got her, she's got it. This is the opening salvo of questions, and then depending on how they respond, and then here's how we're going to hit them. Is it going to be the eye back formation or a wing back, or Brandy's got it all mapped out in her head.
Yeah, got you covered. So that's very true. Like I said, watching a joint interview is kind of like a symphony, watching the different questions. And I always go last. They put me last for some reason. I think I know why, but Cheryl's shaking her head. Yeah. In fact, we have a group interview tonight with a client with a prospective operations manager. So I don't know which way Cheryl's going to set it up for tonight, but we have one of those this evening. So, but Josh, anything you would add in about scorecards?
Nope, I think I pretty much said it.
You got it covered. Brandy, you got any additional thoughts on scorecards?
I think I would say, like, for our listeners that are listening right now, if you're a small company and you're not tracking anything and you want a place to start, just pick like 3 things to track for 2024. You can't track everything if you're a small company. If you're a larger company, then you farm that out. The operations manager is tracking things with operations. The field manager is tracking maybe sales with the technicians. The office manager or the CSR manager is tracking the phone calls. And so you can have a lot more reporting. But if you're a small company, I wouldn't get overwhelmed, because then people get paralyzed with fear and they just don't track anything. I would just pick like 3 or 4 key metrics you want to track.
There you go. And it's a learning process. That's what it's all about. And being able to call on somebody that can help you develop this, hey, that may help you out. So anyway, we appreciate you joining us on this week's episode. If you're listening live, we appreciate you being here. And if you're listening to us on the replay, we appreciate that also. Our mission here is to share with you ideas, concepts, other things to help and assist you in moving your business to where you want to go. And I'm going to tell you what, the scorecard concept is a proven concept. Is it going to take some work to put it together? Yes, it is. But that's the whole thing about success. And here's what I see, folks. I'm just going to be honest with you. People start doing the work when they're in pain. they're in pain, and that's a bad thing. What we got to do is we got to keep working on the business, and not just in the business, every single day. So tune us in every Friday, 12 noon Eastern time, if you want to listen to us live, or we're on replays on all of our major social platforms. We appreciate you being with us. We hope the new year has started well for you. And here's the whole thing. Let's hope for more in 24. Okay. Hope for more in 24. And let's make it happen, because your success is up to you, nobody else.